Hello all, welcome to Paritranaya. In this video, we shall discuss about federal features of the Constitution. So, our Constitution has both federal features as well as unitary features. In this video, we shall discuss about federal features. Before that, let us understand the meaning of this word called as federal. Okay. So, federal is used in different contexts in different way. So, at few of the places we call it as federal system, and at few places we refer to it as federal government. So, what is meant by federal system? One government at the center and another government at the state level. This is called as federal system. So, whether India has a federal system? Yes, we have a federal system because we have one government at the center and one government at the state level. So, we have a federal system. Then what do we understand by federal government? So, whenever we use the word federal government, it means we are referring to the central government. We are referring to the central government. So, two things to be clear. Whenever we say federal system, it means one government at the center, another government at the state level. Whenever we say federal government, it means we are referring to the central government. We are referring to the central government. Okay. So, next we shall start with the discussion of federal features of the Constitution. So, these are the features, federal features of the Constitution. Which are they? Dual polity. Dual polity. Next, written constitution, division of powers, supremacy of the constitution, rigid constitution, independent judiciary, bicameralism. So these are all the features of federal features of the Indian constitution or Indian polity. So first we shall discuss about dual polity. So what is dual polity? So in India, as we know, we have one government at the center, one government at the states. Now, why do we require two different governments? Because these two governments, they work on different aspects. So central government, it works on issues which are important to nation as a whole. For example, national importance matters. Example, defense. So defense is a matter which is common to the whole of India. So on defense matters, central government will deal with it. Similarly, when it comes to foreign affairs, when it comes to foreign affairs, a state, an individual state, for example, Karnataka or Tamil Nadu or Maharashtra or Punjab, it will not deal with the foreign affairs. Who will deal with the foreign affairs? Only center will deal. Next, currency. So when it comes to currency, so who will deal with currency? Center will deal with it. Okay, because currency remains the same throughout the country, whether it is Karnataka, whether it is Arunachal Pradesh, whether it is Punjab or whether it is Gujarat. So irrespective of any state, so the currency remains the same throughout the country, that is rupee. So that's why center deals with the currency. Next, communication. For example, an example of communication is telecommunication. Okay, Jio, Airtel, BSNL. Okay, so who deals with the communication? Center deals with the communication. Next, with what kind of matters does the state deal with? So state deals with the matter which are of regional importance. Okay, regional importance. For example, public order. Public order means we have to maintain some public peace and order. Next, agriculture, health, local government. So all these are the matters which are dealt by state governments. So where has the Constitution made this clarity that these are the matters on which center should deal, these are the matters on which state should deal? So these matters have been given clarification in the 7th schedule. So next, when we start discussion about division of powers, at that time we'll get a clear picture as to where the division has been made between the matters on which the center has to work and the matters on which the state has to work. So this is dual polity. So dual polity is an important federal feature. Next, written constitution. Okay, so another important feature of the Constitution, the federal feature of the Constitution is written constitution. So in our Constitution, we have preamble, so close to 450 articles and 12 schedules. Okay, so we have, and also our Constitution specifies the structure, organization, powers of central government and state governments and limits. So in our Constitution, it specifies structure. It means what should be the Council of Ministers. Council of Ministers should consist of how many members approximately? Council of Ministers should be headed by whom? Prime Minister. Next, similarly at the state level there should be a Council of Ministers headed by Chief Minister. So everything, so detailed organization and structure information has been given in the Constitution. Next, it also defines about the power of central government and state government. Means central government has to work on which matter, has to implement which matter, state government has to implement which matter. So all these things have been clearly defined in the constitution. So that's why written constitution is an important federal feature. Okay, federal feature. Next, it avoids misunderstanding between the two. It avoids, our constitution avoids a misunderstanding between the center and the states. How? With the help of 7th schedule. Suppose if there was no 7th schedule, in the 7th schedule what we have? We have list 1 or union list, it is also called as union list, list 2 which is called as state list. So they have clearly mentioned the subjects of list 1 and list 2. Suppose if this list 1, this 7th schedule was not there, then there would have occurred a fight between the center and state. Center would have said that I will make laws on this, state would have said that we will make laws on these subjects. But now there is no such kind of fight, because there is a clear distinction between the subjects of center and the state, and only center can make the laws on the central subjects, only state can make laws on the state subjects. So in this way, this written constitution has helped to avoid the misunderstanding between the center and the state. So that is why written constitution is an important feature, federal feature of the constitution. Next, as we discussed, division of powers. Okay, so division of powers between the center and states has been ensured with the help of 7th schedule. So 7th schedule consists of 3 lists: union list, on which only center can make the laws; next, state list, on which only state can make the laws; and concurrent list, on which both center as well as states can make laws. Okay, laws. But in case of discrepancy, in case of inconsistency, suppose center also makes a law and state also makes a law on the concurrent list subject, then which one should prevail? So center's law will prevail. So center will prevail. Center will prevail. Okay. So these examples related to all these things we shall discuss later on. Next, residuary. What is residuary? There are some subjects which neither fall in the union list or state list or concurrent list. For example, let us assume while framing the constitution, our constitutional framers were not aware of the concept called as cyber security and all. So now if at all we want to make a law on the cyber security, so where does the cyber security fall? Whether it falls in the union list, state list or concurrent list. So we are not sure. So when it is not present in any of these lists, then it is a residuary subject. Okay. So who can make laws on the residuary subject? Only center can make the laws on the residuary subject. Important. Okay. So this division of powers, again, it's a very important federal feature of the constitution. Next, supremacy of the constitution is another very important federal feature. So what does it mean? Laws made by the center and the states, they have to conform to it. Now, when it comes to laws, center will also make laws on which subject? On union list subject of 7th schedule. States will also make laws on which subjects? On state list subjects of 7th schedule. Now, when both the center and the state they make laws, they should conform to the constitution. They have to adhere to the constitution. So what does it mean? For example, our constitution says that so children below the 14 years of age should not be employed. Should not be employed. Means they should not be subjected to any kind of work. But if a center makes a law by stating that all children who are above the age of 10 can work, so what does it mean? It means our constitution says not less than 14 years of age, but a center has made a law which says that all those who are above the age of 10 can work. It means it is violating the constitution. It is not conforming to the constitution. It is not adhering to the constitution. If any law is not adhering to the constitution, then it can be declared as invalid. It can be declared as invalid. I just took an example. So who has the power to declare that a law is invalid? Both Supreme Court as well as High Court have the power to declare that a law is invalid. Okay, that the law is not conforming with the constitution. Okay, so this is called as power of judicial review. This is called as power of judicial review. So Supreme Court and High Court, what it will do? It will see whether the law made by the Supreme Court or the High Court, if they adhere to the constitution or not. If it is not adhering to the constitution, they will declare such a law as invalid. So that process is called as judicial review. Judicial review. Next, another important federal feature of our constitution is rigid constitution. Rigid constitution. So provisions related to federal feature structure, center-state relations, and judicial organization, they can be amended with special majority of center plus approval of half of the state legislature. So later on, when we start discussing about the amendment of the constitution, amendment means the changes that we want to bring to our constitution. So we'll see that amendment of the constitution can take place in different ways. So one is with the help of simple majority of parliament. Next, special majority of parliament. Next, another few provisions can be amended by special majority of parliament plus half of the states consent. Half of states consent. It means when we want to amend the constitution, bring changes into the constitution, it can be done in three different ways. Few of the provisions can be changed by just simple majority, few of the provisions can be changed by special majority, and few of the provisions of the constitution can be changed by special majority of the parliament, plus they should also require the consent of minimum half of the states. For example, in India we have 28 states, so minimum more than half, 15 states have to say yes. Okay, 15 states have to yes. So this is called as rigidity of the constitution. It means all the features of the constitution cannot be amended easily. So if at all the constitutional provisions could be amended easily, then it will become flexible. Okay, flexible. So center would have amended according to its whims and fancies, but such a chance is not available because there are certain provisions which can be amended only with the special majority of the center and consent of the states. So this indicates rigidity of the constitution. So again, rigidity of the constitution is an important federal feature. Next, independent judiciary. Again, a very important feature to uphold what an important federal feature. So why independent judiciary is required? To protect supremacy of the constitution, exercising judicial power. Now suppose if the judiciary is not independent. Okay, suppose if judiciary is not independent, what does it mean? Judiciary is dependent on legislature or judiciary is dependent on executive. For example, now we have judge of Supreme Court judge. So now let us assume if the Supreme Court judge's salary is made by Council of Ministers headed by Prime Minister. Now let us assume Council of Ministers headed by Prime Minister will make the salary of Supreme Court judge. Okay, means every month whatever the salary the Supreme Court judge receives, let us assume this is being credited by Council of Ministers. Now in this case what happens? Supreme Court judges, whenever they are giving the judgment, they have to give the judgment in favor of the government. They have to give the judgment in favor of the government, otherwise they will not receive the salary. If this happens, then none of the judgments can come in the favor of the people of India. So all the judgments will be in favor of government of India. In order to avoid this, so judiciary has been created as an independent organization. So here, whether the government agrees or not, every month salary will go to the Supreme Court judge. So that is why when the Supreme Court judge makes a judgment, so it will be a balanced judgment. It will not be a favor of one single party. Okay, and by this what the judges will ensure? They will ensure that supremacy of the constitution is upheld. Okay, so to protect the supremacy of the constitution, what we require? Independent judiciary. Okay, so how the supremacy of the constitution can be upheld? So Supreme Court, what it does? By exercising judicial review. So both Supreme Court and High Court, by exercising judicial review, they uphold the supremacy of the constitution. That is why independent judiciary is a very important federal feature of the constitution. Next, as an independent judiciary, it also settles the disputes between center and the states, So there are some disputes which will arise between the center and the states. So those disputes will be solved by the Supreme Court. Similarly, between states, some disputes will arise. So those disputes will also be resolved by Supreme Court. So all this is possible because we have independent judiciary. Next, how this independence of the judiciary is ensured? Security of tenure. So a judge can feel that he is independent only when there is a security of tenure. For example, once a judge has been appointed, so until he crosses the threshold age, he cannot be removed. Even if you want to remove him, there is a very stringent procedure. We will be discussing about those procedures and all later on. So what we need to understand is removal of judge is not easy. So as the removal of judge is not easy, he will not make any judgments in favor of one party. So his judgments will always be balanced judgments. So that is why the security of tenure of a judge, this ensures judicial independence. Okay, judicial independence. Fixed service conditions. So once the judge of the Supreme Court has been, Supreme Court or High Court has been appointed, so his salary and number of leaves and everything will remain same. Okay, it cannot be varied. So all these ensure what? Judicial independence, and with the help of judicial independence, we can uphold the supremacy of the Constitution. Next, another very important feature of federal feature of the Constitution is bicameralism. So bicameralism means two houses. One is Lok Sabha, another one is Rajya Sabha. So in Lok Sabha, we have representatives of people of India. So we have Lok Sabha MPs, we have Rajya Sabha MPs. So Lok Sabha MPs, as we know, they are directly elected by the people. But Rajya Sabha MPs, so there are Rajya Sabha MPs are indirectly elected by the people's representatives, and few of them are nominated as well. So Rajya Sabha always represents the states. Rajya Sabha always represents states, and Lok Sabha, it represents the people of India. Represents the people of India. So in this way, what will ensure the interests of the people are also upheld, and also at the same time, interests of the states are also upheld. So how exactly they are upheld? Later on, we shall see when we start discussing about the Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha in detail. Next, Rajya Sabha, it maintains federal equilibrium by protecting the interests of the states against undue interference. So later on, we shall see that Rajya Sabha, what? Protects the interests of the states. So how it protects the interests of the states and all, we shall see later on. Okay, but we should understand that Rajya Sabha protects the interests of the states. So in this way, what happens? This bicameralism, it becomes an important federal feature of the Constitution. Important federal feature of the Constitution. So in this video, what we discussed about the federal features of the Constitution. So based on this, we should be able to answer these questions. Answer the following questions in comment box. Bicameralism in India goes against the federal feature of the Indian polity. So we have to answer in true or false. Next, flexible constitution is the federal feature of the Indian polity. Again, you have to answer it in true or false. In the constitution, in the context of India, constitutional supremacy means we cannot amend the constitution. True or false. Next, in India, residuary power rests with the center. Okay. So again, true or false. So answer all these questions in the comment box. So in this video, we have studied about the federal features of the Constitution. In the subsequent video, we'll also be discussing many more important topics related to polity. For all our further updates, subscribe to our channel and hit on the bell icon. Thank you.